Hi, my loves. I recorded a whole bunch of videos in the last couple of days, but yesterday I took a family day because the day before I really overextended myself and got too tired and too burnt out. So yesterday my self-care was just to spend the day with my boys and just do fun things like play basketball and whatever. But the theme of not being able to stay silent has now suddenly fallen back into my lap. And I've always had this voice, this really strong voice when I was a kid and a teenager. And I was always so proud of it. I had so much conviction, and it was always rooted in my values, doing what I thought was right. I do believe that if you stay silent, you're part of the problem. And that whatever field you're in, there are things that that I personally believe should be brought into the light of day. And that's to help people. And given what has just been recommended by the CDC, that if a mother is tests positive for COVID-19, that they should be separated from their baby. And I think I'm going to be talking and writing a lot about this. Angel Phoenix, my doula teacher, she did a live last night all about it. And there are several experiments that have been done taking babies from their mothers, and the results are that they all died. So I just can't stay silent anymore. Again, fuck what others think. That's just where I'm at, because I have to speak my truth, and I have to speak out and let people know that there's another way to do this. So I'm going to be talking a lot about that. And last night I was brainstorming, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? I'm launching my business this week, taking my first clients, doing the online support sessions. And, that's not enough, because honestly, those things are almost ready to go. And I'm just kind of waiting. I'm just waiting for somebody to hit that button. And so I'm thinking, how do I explain to people? How do I relay from my experiences and my brain what this experience is? And it hit me that we're all living a collective birth and death experience right now. And Angel always talks about birth, sex, and death, that those are the milestone moments that humans have left. And I think the universe or God or nature, whatever you believe in, has landed us another milestone moment that is happening right now. And I just started drawing all of these correlations between what's happening with our economy and our government, and with our healthcare system and birth industry, and then even one step farther into death, into the death business. And I'm not as familiar with the death side as I want to be, because they're all intimately interconnected. And Angel has some really great wisdom on the elderly and what's happening to them right now. I believe it's in one of her podcast episodes. I will link below once I find that information for you. And, in the US, we're getting stimulus checks now. And my reaction when I first saw that was, it was strange, because that money doesn't actually come from anywhere. We're already trillions of dollars in debt, and it's just okay, well, let's just print $2 trillion out of thin air on some checks, and it'll make people feel better. And it just comes out of nothing. And so I just was thinking stimulus, and I was like, it's stimulation. That's all it is. It's just stimulation for people who don't know how to stimulate themselves, who don't know how to use their senses, who are sitting at home right now. I've been calling it a nation of numbness. And I'm intimately familiar with that feeling. I spent years, just what I call the grasping, looking for something, anything to give me hope, to fix me, to feel something, to connect to something. And that's exactly the same thing that goes into, like the birth industry. So like baby products and events and all these pretty flashy, fun, rewarding things that are put in front of you, and you're told like, this is what you're supposed to do by these systems that say they take care of you. And what ends up happening is we get distracted. We turn and we look at the pretty flashy thing, and we focus on what we're told we should be focusing on. So with COVID-19, it's the economy. We got to focus on the economy. The economy's taking a hit. And I just think it's completely missing the humans behind all of that. Humanity is just completely missing from that equation. And in the birth industry, it's not only just the products and the events, it's also the medical management of birth, of pregnancy. There's so much in that experience that's just a gorgeous, ancient, powerful experience for women and birthing people. And we've been told that it looks like this completely other thing, which I think ties back into that like stimulation. Like it's like things to do and things to look at. And we end up relying on it because we're so used to not feeling and not connecting, especially with ourselves. That's what my teacher actually, like the bedrock of her foundation is knowing yourself, self-ownership, self-actualization. And to people who don't know what that looks like and feels like, it seems really selfish. But this is why we need it. So we end up relying on this stimulation. We end up relying on other people, or other systems rather, not even people. Because the reality of the situation is there's enough supplies and there's enough money to go around. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that there's enough. There's enough food, there's enough toilet paper, there's enough everything. The problem is fear. And the problem is this need to, again, this comes from Angel, pathologically consume the stimulation. And so we end up relying on it. And then what ends up happening is you get to the birth, which I think has just happened. COVID-19 was just born. The global lockdown, panic, crazy madness was just born. So you get to the birth and you've had all of this stimulation, all of these points where you were told you should do this, you should do that. This is what you need to do to take care of whatever it is. And then you get to the big day, and what ends up happening is we feel like we did everything that we should do, and nothing was as it was promised. And I think that that's just so relatable right now because, again, I'm going to talk mostly about birth, but this absolutely ties into death as well. Because in the birth space, so many mothers and birthing people are being traumatized. If you're a birth worker, you know what I mean. People are raped. People are assaulted. And it isn't what we usually conjure up when those words are around. It's medical professionals literally inserting body parts into birthing people without their permission, without their knowledge, even when they're screaming no. I've been through that. Not in birth, but I've been through that in a medical institution. And the trauma and the fear and the just terror that's coming out of that is just intense. And I think people at home during COVID-19 are going through that same thing right now. I've done what I was supposed to do. I've worked my ass off for my community, for my country, whatever it is. And now the whole rug's been pulled out from under you. And because you've been relying on that for whatever reason, I think people are not used to being home with themselves and their families and their feelings and their trauma. And that in and of itself is going to traumatize people. So you've got the rug pulled out from under you. You have your whole experience stolen from you. And right now what I'm seeing is that people have had their human experience stolen from them. Because our entire lives, especially here in America, economics, the economy is drilled into us. You have to make money. You have to work. You have to contribute. You have to do this. You have to do that. And what ended up happening is all of us forgot who the fuck we are, who our kids are. People don't know their kids at all. People don't know their partners. They don't know their families. They don't know their neighbors. And it's because that humanity aspect has just been totally stolen. And it's 100% been stolen from the birth experience. And we allow it. We allow it. We rely on it. And suddenly, like, you know, Angel teaches, like, we actually pay for it. We actually pay for people to take advantage of us. And it's just finally all clicked for me with this new recommendation that mothers and babies be separated. And the reason why this is such a problem is because, number one, people come in and they say, we saved you. When in fact, all of the problems that happened were because of those same people, those same systems, those same structures. So in economics, right? Our economy, our economic system, and even our system of government is old fucking news. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't apply. It's a false sense of security for people. And it's a way of measuring our success as a populace. But it's so fragile. We know this. Obviously, we're witnessing it right now. The system it's truly a house of cards. It's just paper. All it is literally words written on a piece of paper. There's nothing solid or steadfast about it. And it's the same thing with birth. When you look at the way that it's been medically managed, and as a birth worker, we know that medical intervention causes a lot of medical problems on the entire spectrum of physical, emotional, mental. Now, don't get me wrong, there are absolutely cases where medical intervention is necessary and medicine does save lives. But because of that, because we see them as our saviors, we allow them to do a lot of things to us that we wouldn't normally allow. And we can't ever escape our humanity. Our humanity is always here. And our intuition is always here. And our animal instinct is always here. And I can't really think of a time when it's stronger than right after a baby is born. And I feel like now all of us are in this space that as birth workers we call the golden hour, which is the first hour after birth, when there's usually skin to skin, breastfeeding, snuggling. That is when the bond is created. And there's actually is a lot of scientific exploration, but we don't need that. For any of us who have had children, you know what that is like. And if you don't, I'm so sorry that you didn't have that experience. It breaks my heart because that connection, that first connection with your child can literally spell life or death for them. It can make a difference on your postpartum depression and whether or not you'll have it, and if you do, how severe. And the golden hour is this opportunity that no matter what happened to us, in our pregnancy, in our birth, no matter what happened there. Not that we ignore it and we shove it down, we swallow it and we push through it. But no matter what happened in that space, that connection, that opportunity to heal in that moment, physically and emotionally, and the opportunity to just make that connection it's not even possible to replicate at a later time. It is only possible right there. And I feel like in the COVID-19 right now, that is where we are. We are in the opportunistic moment where we have the opportunity to make just mad connections with each other, do incredible things for ourselves, our families, and our communities. And it's not adding all of these false things on top of it. It's not just performative gestures, as my teacher would say, but what do we want? Cook for people, like call somebody that you love, like connect with yourself. Like we just have this beautiful, golden, gorgeous time. And because these systems and structures have absolutely failed us, and we have locked away and swallowed our humanity so deep inside of us that we're actually willing to take that away. Which in and of itself, there's so much misinformation, especially in the news articles that are being written about this. But I really want you to think about other times, such as if a mother has the flu. We don't separate them. It's unheard of. And the reason is, in those experiments that we've done, where we study what happens when babies don't have that connection with their parent, when they don't have love and touch and cuddles, they actually die. All of them in the experiments died. That's what we're facing right now. And because of the way that our healthcare system works, our care providers are running with it. They're running with it, and they are telling people they do not have a choice. They've been telling people this forever. But this is a time, this is an example that's going to cause so much death, so much destruction of humanity. And we have the opportunity to speak up and turn this around. And that's why I am. I'm going to turn all of this rage and anger and frustration and heartbreak, and I'm going to turn that into some killer offerings. I started to design them last night, and I'm talking about community, a sense of community, a sense of holding each other like people have been craving and missing for so long. I want to create safe spaces. I want to create spaces like the space in the golden hour. I want to create spaces where people feel so held and loved and seen and nourished that they can heal, that they can relax, that they can go through their own birth experience without feeling absolutely terrified, without feeling hopeless and helpless. Because we are not hopeless and helpless. I don't care if you're having a baby or you're at home with COVID-19. Or you're on your deathbed. I don't care which part of that process. It is all related. It is all interconnected right now.